So next I'm going to go ahead and start building on the blog page. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And then I'm just going to build this blog route here. So you want to navigate into the Angular folder, into source, app, and then components, and then just build that component in there. You can do that with ng generate component, and I'll name it blog. And then afterwards, I'm going to go into my routes, which is right here, and then just going to add that here at the bottom. And then I'm just going to import it here. Okay, then I'm just going to test this and make sure it works. And actually, I think I have to go back into the nav bar and fix that link. Yeah, so this should be router link. Alright, so now that should work. Alright, there we go. And then so I'm going to actually go into the blog component HTML and just add some bootstrap here. Okay, and then just like in the other components, I'm going to add a custom message here with bootstrap. Now, since I have these two here, I have to go inside of the component.ts file and then just export those. For right now, though, I'm going to comment this out. Oops. And then I'll come back to it. So I'm going to add a button here. And this button is going to be for creating new posts. Then I'm going to have another one. This one is going to be for reloading the feed. Okay. So it's kind of like on Facebook when you scroll down on your phone, it refreshes the feed. So that's kind of what that's for. And then I'm just going to add an icon to this. So if you go over to the Bootstrap website, getbootstrap.com, hit components. You have a few icons here that you can use. And I'm just going to grab this one right here. And all you do is just add a span and then make it class of whatever icon it is that you want to add. And then after that icon, I'm just going to add 2 spaces just so it looks a little better. So if you hit save on that, this is what it looks like so far. So what I'm going to do is this new post, I'm going to hide it anytime a new post is being created. So I'm just going to add an ngIf that says if new post is not true. So in other words, if the users didn't, so when they click this button, it's going to create this new post as true, and then it's going to hide this button. Okay. So then I just need to go up here and just set this to false up here. And so then I'll just add a click event, and I'll create a function called new blog form. So then I'll create that here as well. And I'm actually going to do that beneath the constructor, just a personal preference. And then what I'll do in this button is I'll set this to true. And that will hide that button. Okay, so if you go back and then you just hit that new post, you'll see it vanishes there. And I'm going to add that to the reload button as well. Oops, wrong spot. Meant to put it there. And then I'm going to add a click event to this one as well. So let's see, where am I? Click. And then I'm going to create a function called reload blogs. Okay, and that's just going to refresh the feed here. So let's go back here and create that. And then in the HTML, I'm also going to add, right here in the button, I'm going to add disabled. And I'm going to disable this button whenever loading blogs is true. And I'll show you why in a second here. So let me just go back and create that. But then I'm going to set it to true here. And so right here, I'm going to create a function that retrieves all the blogs. So I'll just write get all blogs. And then I'm going to set a timeout. And so I'm going to run this timeout after 4 seconds. What I'm going to do is set loading blogs to false. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to have different posts here from different users. And when the user clicks refresh, it's going to refresh all the blogs and get any new ones. But I don't want them to be able to spam this button. So that's why I'm doing the timeout and disabling it. So when users click it, it's going to lock for 4 seconds. And then after the 4 seconds, they can continue to reload again if they want to. But I'm just locking that for 4 seconds just so they can't sit there and click it over and over again. Because what I'm doing here is I'm sending a request to the server to get all the blogs, and I don't want to continuously do that. I don't want to let users to be able to spam that. I want to at least give a 4-second break here. And then back over in the HTML, I'm actually going to create a sample blog post just so you can see what this looks like. And so what I'm going to do is say ngIf new post. So I'm going to hide all of the posts once user clicks new post. And the reason for that is because I'm not going to have a separate page. Everything's going to be on this one page. So I'm going to hide a div anytime users click new post. And I'll show you in a second what I mean exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and implement the bootstrap. It's going to be class panel primary. And then I'm going to add the panel heading. And then an h3 with class panel title. So I'll just say post title here. Or you can say blog title, doesn't matter. And then outside of the heading, I'm going to create the body. So that's panel, body. And I'm just going to put some sample text here. And then finally the panel footer. So let's say posted by, for right now, I'm just going to put myself here. Later on this is all going to be dynamic, but for right now I just want to show you a sample. The date will be, put that in the wrong spot. And for right now this div is going to be empty. But we're going to utilize this div later on. But for right now I'm just going to create it like this. Same way. So likes, and it's going to display the number of likes. So for right now, just hard code it 25, as well as dislikes. I'll say 22. Then up here, don't forget to add some breaks. Okay, and I'll just show you what this looks like so far. So here we just have our sample post here. So I just need to add a few more buttons to this. So outside this div here, I'm going to create 2 links with buttons inside of them. The first one is going to be edit. And I will just copy this and use the same one below. But I'll change this to danger. And then change this to delete. Okay, and that just looks like this. You got a little edit and delete button. Now these buttons later on, we're gonna hide them. They're only gonna show if you're the user that actually posted them. And now I'm actually gonna remove this paragraph because I want this all to be a lot closer than I have it now. And that's just a personal preference. So you'll see everything's a little bit, more condensed, and I just kind of save space. I wanted to do it that way. And then below the buttons, I'm going to create another one with the class drop down and add a button to there. And then inside this button, I'm going to create a span, and I'm going to add another bootstrap icon. And so the one I want to add now is this one. It's the thumbs up icon. And then I'll just add a space here. And I'll say 21 likes. Now, the reason for this is because this is not going to be showing the edit and delete button if it's not your own post. So we need this button here to show the likes and dislikes. But if it's your own post, then we don't need to show it because we have the stats appearing here. So once I create a couple more posts, you'll see exactly what I mean. Even if it doesn't make too much sense, don't freak out. I will be explaining it more in depth. So then right underneath this button, I'm going to add another div. And this one's going to be drop down content. And I'm going to add a link. And so this is going to be a link of all the people that have liked the post. So let's say I liked it. Ginger liked it. And then Patel liked it. Okay. Okay, and then actually let me these divs here, they tend to get confusing, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to annotate which div this is. So I'll just put end footer. Then up here I'll just put footer start. And that's just for me to be able to kind of differentiate that a little bit. Now, before this class will work, because it doesn't exist in Bootstrap, if you go over to w3schools.com, or if you just Google how to CSS drop down, they have a really simple example that looks pretty awesome, and that's the exact one I'm going to use. So this is exactly what I just did here. But what you need to do is also copy over the CSS. Okay. So once you copy that, you want to go into blog component CSS file right here, and then just paste that in there. And then once you do that, if you go back, you'll see here's our likes button, and if you hover over it, here are the 3 users that liked the post. Okay. So I'm just going to do the same thing, but with the dislikes. So let's see here. I'm going to actually do the same thing. Say likes drop down. And I'll just do the same thing. And then I'll just change this from success to warning, and then hit save on that. And so here are our 2 buttons. All right, so dynamically, these are going to show you everyone that's liked your post and everyone that's disliked it, and you'll be able to click on each person and view their profile directly. Now the way we have this set up with the 4 buttons here, they're not all going to display at the same time, but I'm just kind of constructing this first, and then I will add functionality to them. And then outside of the footer, I'm going to go ahead and create a comment box for users. So I'm going to create an unordered list and add some items to that. And the class is going to be bootstrap list group. And then each list item is going to be list group item. And inside of here, I'm going to create a button. That's going to be for posting comments. And so if users click this button, I'm going to create an event that says draft comment. Yeah, draft comment is fine. All right, and then let's see. After this button, in that same list item, I'm going to create a break, and then I'm going to create a form. Inside of that, I'm going to pass a text area. I'll say 30 rows, actually 10 rows and 30 columns. Name this comment, and then bootstrap class. And then I'll add a button for submitting the comment. As well for canceling. Okay, then for right now, what I'm going to do is comment out this form, and we're going to work on that part later. And so I'll just show you what I have so far. We just have a post comment here. When we click that button, that's going to pull down this form here. So before we get any further into that, though, I want to go ahead and start working on the blog model for our users. So I'm going to actually close all of this out and close the Angular side of it, and then go into my models. And I'm going to copy this one and create a blog model. That's going to be very similar. Let's see, I'm not going to have encryption. And I'll leave these here for right now, just so I have a sample to work with. But let's see here. This can go away. Don't need this. And I'm going to name this blog. And I'm going to create a new definition for this. So title will be type string, required true. And that will record the date of when this post was created. Then our likes. And then who did or who liked it. And I'll do an array for that one. Actually, you can go ahead and just copy this. Then I'll have comments, which is going to be an array. And I'm going to make it an object with comment, the comment that's left by the user, followed by who it was that left the comment. So I'll name it commentator. All right. Then I'm gonna go ahead and pass in all the validators for this. So instead of email length checker, I will name it title length checker for the blog title. And just pass in title. But let's do 5 and 50. And then for this one, let's do alpha numeric title checker. So basically I just want to make sure that the title is alphanumeric. So instead of this regular expression, I'm going to replace it with a simpler one. Let's see here. So I'll just do A through Z lowercase, A through Z uppercase, and then any numbers and spaces as well. Then I'll change this to title validators. Oops, title length checker. And this one is alphanumeric title checker. Replace this. Okay. Then I'll just run a similar things to username. I'll do body length checker for the blog body. I'm going to do 5, but then I'm going to also do 500 since the body is going to be pretty long. That's the only check that I'm going to run for the body. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'll just pass in 1, which is going to be body length checker. Not going to have this password one, but I'll use it. What I'll do is run a validator for the comments that users leave. Name it comment length checker. Pass in the comment. Now, because it's an array, I have to kind of change this a little bit. Instead of comment not true, I have to pass in an array here with the first element. So I'll say if comment, the 0 element, the first element in the array, length is less than 1. Same thing, or greater than, I'll say 200 for comments, should be fine. Then I'll return false and then return true. And then I don't need this. And I'll get rid of this and just have 1. Actually, I forgot to double check that I renamed this. Let's see here. Title validators, that's fine. But this should be body validators. And then this one will be comment validators. Even though there's only 1, but just in case I want to add more to this array, that's why I'm doing it this way. Just to make it easier in the long run. Okay, I'll just do it that way. There's no need to say that it needs to be more than 1. All right, so now I can go ahead and add these validators here. Let's see, got one for the comments, just for the comment itself. right, so let me double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, this is good. We can go ahead and hit save on that. All right, and then now we can go ahead and start creating the routes. So I'll create one called, say, blog.js. And this will be similar to this. So I will just copy this here, paste it here, and let's see. I'll keep all of those for right now. And so underneath the user model, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the blog model. And then I'm going to create my first route here. So what we're going to do first is create routes. So let's do a post, and I'll just name it new blog. Pass in a request, then send a response. Right now I'm going to test this, and then I'm going to go over to Postman. Actually, before I do that, we need to go into the index.js file and make sure we configure our application to use blogs.js. So right underneath where we did authentication, I'm going to just add that here. So I'll name it blogs and add that new file there. And then additionally, we need to go down and right after this one, do the same thing. Add that middleware, and I'll just use /blogs and then pass in blogs. All right, so now we can go ahead into Postman and use that. So that's going to look like this, authentication /blogs, and it is a post request. And I'm going to hit send on that. Now we're going to get the token error. Actually, I forgot to clear this out from the last video. Actually, you'll probably get this error instead. It says no token provided. Now, the reason for that is because in the index file, we passed it in after the authentication file. So therefore, all routes that go through blogs is going to require authentication. Now, to save time, what I'm going to do is go into the authentication file and go to my middleware that requests tokens from user. And I'm going to disable it for now, just so that I can use this route in the blog file without needing a token. So then if we go back and hit send on that, oh, and actually I forgot, this should be, instead of authentication, it should be blogs and then new blogs, because that was the route we created here, new blog. And then hit send on that. And oh, actually, one other thing I forgot here is you'll see is this error here that says router.post is not a function. That's because I forgot to pass in the router like I did up here with authentication. So I have to pass that in just like that. So let's try that again. And there we get our test result. So now we can go ahead and build on this. So first we're going to need a title, of course, and you can pull up the model we created if you need to refer back to these fields. And so if we don't have one, we'll send back a error message that says blog title is required. We also need a body. So then I'm going to create the new blog object. And it's going to have the title, of course, the body, and then who it was created by. And then I want to make sure, actually, before I do this, I also want to make sure that I also have who it was created by. So, whoops. Afterwards, I will save the blog and then check for any errors. Now, right here, what I'm going to do is similar to what we did in the authentication. I'm going to give specifics for the error. That way, it's more user friendly, and they'll have a better idea of what caused the error. So, underneath error, I'll check to see if it's a validation error, and then afterwards, since I know it's a validation error, I'm going to check if it's a validation error with the title. And if it is, I'll just return a message. Okay. If it's not with the title, then it's obviously with the body. So actually, I'll just copy this. All right. Let me see, where are we here? I'm actually going to, let me make sure this is in the right spot. Actually, I need to add else here. So in other words, if it's not a validation error, then we'll send this here. And then here is where we have our success. Okay, so now if you hit send on that, now we're getting our error messages, blog titles required. So make sure you have this one checked, the form URL encoded, and then go over to your body. Oh, and also in your headers, you want to have content type of the same kind. And then in the body, I'm going to add title. I'll say test blog title. Hit send. And so now we have the body error, so I'm going to need that. And then the creator, which is created by. All right, and then we just saved our first blog. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my database, make sure it did actually save that. All right, here we go. We have all of our fields. And I'm going to get into, in a later video, how to add the comments and dislikes and all that stuff. But for right now, I just want to create our first blog post. So now we need to go ahead and implement that on in the Angular side. So we have our button already created. And when we click it, you'll notice everything vanishes. And so at that time, what we're going to do is display the form. So go into the Angular, back into the blog component HTML, and I'm going to do it right above the sample blog post. So going back to, let's see, the blog component.ts file, I have to import all of the form stuff. So I'm going to import the form control, form group, form builder, and then validators. And I'll just name it form, and I'll do that right here. Create new blog form. And I'm going to use the form builder, but I forgot to pass it up here in the constructor. Right, so then I can go ahead and use it here. Now, if you're freaking out why I'm not explaining anything that I'm doing, it's because I've already, there's already like 3 other videos where I actually showed step by step how to create this form in this same series. So I'm just, I don't really want to waste time explaining it again, because if you're following this entire series, it's going to get really redundant. So I'm just going to fly right through it. Go ahead and add the required validator to this. And max length, and I'm just gonna go back to the model and see what I did. So I did, for the title, I did 50 and 5. Okay, and I'm actually gonna create a new custom validation, and I'll name it alpha numeric validation. And in the model, I'm going to grab this because I'm basically do the same thing. And then I'll just add that here. And then I'll add the body. And I just want to go back and make sure 5 and 500, yep. And then inside the constructor, you want to make sure you pass that so that when the component loads, it creates that form for us. Okay, back at the HTML page, go ahead and create that form. Oops, actually, let me do it this way. And then for the form group, name this form. Right, then I'm going to go ahead and create this function for when the form is submitted. So we'll do it down here. And then for right now, I'll just log to the console form submitted. And this same one up here that we use for the button, the if new post, I'm going to use that, but get rid of the exclamation point. And let's go ahead and create the fields now. So this will be form group. And this will be the title. Right, I'll say blog title. Don't need a value. Just turn off my autocomplete, and then add the form control name, which is title. All right, so then here in the class, this is actually going to be ng class. And then our success is going to be if form controls title is valid. And then, oops. Then our has error is going to be form controls title.dirty and form controls title errors. Then underneath the input, I'll go ahead and create that validation. First one is this field is required. So this is exactly what we did in the register form and the login form. So this is just all repeat information. So I'll just actually take this and copy it and add it as an ngF. But then I'm going to add the specific error that I want this to appear with, which is the required. Then I'll just copy this. The second one is going to be for the length. So say max length. What did I say? 50. Then I'll do min length, which I believe was 5. But for this, let's say put this in parentheses and just do an or and make it max length. Then the last one's going to be the custom I created, which is going to be, must be letter or number for the title. Let's copy this. Oops. There we go. So before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and test this out. And actually let me organize this up a bit. I'll say title input. So I'm just going to hit new post here, and then I'm going to try out my validation here. Okay, and test the length. All right, there we go. So we have our validation set, and we can move on to the next field, and I'm just going to copy this. Actually, what I'll do is open a new file and then just replace all the titles with body. That'll make it easier for me. There we go. But instead of this input, I'm going to use a text area, and I'll use those defaults. That's fine. Placeholder, put body, name it body as well, and also add the bootstrap class of form control. I'll change up this max length should be 500. I believe the minimum was 5 as well for that. But this alphanumeric one is not apply. And then to the text area, I have to add the form control, name of body. And then I'll just go test this all out now. Hit new post, make sure we get our validation messages here. And I'm just going to test out the length. All right, there we go. And then I'm just going to add my submission buttons. I'm going to add a button that says go back for users to be able to go back, and I will add a click event. And then I'm going to go create this. So with TypeScript, it's pretty easy to do this. It's just window.location, and then we'll do a reload, because what that'll do is it'll clear all the states of the forms. I'll show you really quick kind of how that works. Let me add a class to this. And I'll just show you really quick how this works. So once you hit go back, it'll basically just refresh the page and then go back to this one right here. There's other ways of doing it, but that one's just simple and fast, so I'll just go with that. Now I'm going to add another one up here. I'm going to add processing. So what I'm going to do, set it to false if you want. What I'm going to do is disable this button anytime the form is being processed. And I will copy this and add another one. This one's going to be to actually submit the form. So I'll change the type to submit, and the click event and the class. So I'll change this to success, and then the click function we're not going to need because I already have the submit event up here. Okay. Let's see, where were we? Right here. So let's just see what that looks like. All right, and there we go. We have our two buttons. Now I also want to make sure users can't submit if the form is not valid. So now you'll notice it's grayed out until all validation is passed. Okay. All right, let's go back. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the form for now. So we can go back here and do some things. First, underneath, let's see, underneath the form, I'm going to have the two functions for enabling it and disabling it. And I'll just actually name this new blog form. Right, and paste that here. All right, so let's find our function for submitting, which is right here. Let me just double check. So let's see. Yep, should be on blog submit. And let me make sure this console log is working. So I'm going to go back, hit new post. All right, and there you see in our console we got form submitted. So I just wanted to make sure that works. So as soon as this form is submitted, what I'll do is set processing to true so that everything will be disabled. Well, the submission will be disabled, and then I'll disable the form. So what I'll do is create the blog object from the inputs. So title will be, well, I'll just actually copy, let's see, copy these. And take this out, and I'll just do value instead. Oops. Okay. Now for the created by field, right? Because remember that's required. We need a way to get the user that's logged in and that is posting this. Okay. So what we can do is bring in the authentication service. So I'll just do that really quick. And then so on ng-init, what I'll do is I'll get that username. So I'll just run auth service get profile, and well, we can do profile. Then I'll set username, which we haven't created, so I'll do that up here. Okay, so, and then I'll set that to the username. Okay, so up here in created by, we can go ahead and set that now. All right. Oops, shouldn't be a semicolon. Whoops, I got a duplicate there. Now, before we go on, we need to go ahead and create a new service for our blogs. So I'm going to go in, go out of components, and I'm going to go into the services folder. And I'm going to use ng-generate service and name it blog service. So then you just have to go into your main file, the app.module, import it. Actually, let me just do that above here under the previous service I use. Blog service from. Okay, and then you just have to pass that down here at the bottom under providers. So then let's go into that file and actually have to import it here as well. Let's see, what did I do wrong here? Okay, yeah, I forgot the from. And I'm gonna go into the new service I created and create that new service to communicate with our route on the back end. So I'm actually gonna go into the authentication service and copy a few things. I'm gonna copy the options and then this right here. And then I'm also going to import authentication services. So then I'm just going to add that here. Oops. That's fine. Oh, and then we also have to import the headers and HTTP module. So again, I'll just go back to the auth file and just import that here at the top. And don't forget to add this auth service for the auth token. And I will also add domain, and I'm going to get that from the auth service file as well. And then I'm also going to pass in the HTTP module. So now I'm going to go ahead and create the new function. I will name it new blog. I'm going to take in that blog object we created, and I'm going to create the authentication headers. And so if you remember back in the routes, it's new blog, and we also passed in, let's see where the index file is. We also specified it should be /blogs, right? So this is what that'll look like. And it is a post request. Now, actually, let me make sure there's no slash at the end here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that slash in there. And anyway, going back to the blog service, go ahead and finish this up. So it's new blog, and it's expecting the blog object along with the options for the header. Then I'll pass in a map and then res.json. All right, so now we can use this in our blog component. So over here where we're submitting the form, we've created our blog object, so we can go ahead and subscribe to that service now. And we do that with, oh, actually I forgot to pass in, oh no, I didn't forget, it's here. Just wanted to make sure. So I'll go ahead and say this blog service, and hold up, I think I think I didn't pass that in. Okay, I didn't. All right, so now I can go ahead and use this blog properly. New blog, and then pass in that blog object, and then subscribe. So if we don't get success, I'll go ahead and set the message class to Bootstrap's alert danger, and then set to message to whatever we get from the API. Then I'll stop processing, and then I'll enable the form so they can go back and edit. Otherwise, I will set it to success. Set the message. Right, then I'm going to set a timeout. And so after 2 seconds, whoops, forgot timeout. So after 2 seconds, I'm going to take new post and set it to false so the form will disappear. Set processing to false. I'm going to clear the message. And then I'm going to reset the form. And then I'm going to make sure that the form is enabled so users can use it then. Right. And actually, before we test this, what we'll need to do is go back over to the authentication route. And remember, we commented out the middleware to get tokens. So we're going to need to enable that now. Otherwise, we won't be able to get which user is logged in. So once you enable that, go ahead and log out and then log back in. That way you'll have your profile data. And then I'm going to go ahead and enter a sample blog post and hit submit. All right, so we had success there, and if you actually go into your database, you'll see the new one I just created. But I don't have a custom message set. So yeah, well, I did set it here in the component.ts, but not in the HTML. If you remember back in the beginning, we commented it out. So I'm just going to remove that. And here I'm going to add an ngIf. And of course, if message is true, but also if new post is true. So I'm going to go back now and create a new post. And see if we get that message. All right, and there we go. We get our blog saved message. Okay, so that is it. That is how you create a blog post. And so the next video, what we're going to do is retrieve all the posts and display them here dynamically instead of having this static one here. Then we're going to learn how to update them and then delete them completely.